Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 65. This is March 6th of GC 365. My name's Jacob. I'm a creative director here at Gold Creek. I help manage our media team up here. And this is...
I'm Haley. I am this guy's wife.
Yes, she is.
And I'm also the high school pastor here at our Mill Creek campus.
And she does a killer job. Just give a quick shout out for anyone who maybe has high school students.
Yes.
What time?
We meet at 7 o'clock Sunday night. We would love to see your student there. I'd love to say we actually met at Encounter back in our day.
Good things happen.
So if you've been hesitant to send your student, you could be holding them back from the love of their life.
Stop.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, here we are. Walking
really
testimony to that.
But thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Of course.
Okay, we're going to get into today's reading. We're in Numbers and Mark, and of course, we have Psalms and Proverbs. But we're going to start with Numbers 8, chapter 8, and we're talking about the Nazirite vow. So I thought this was a little interesting. I did a little research on this, and the Nazirite vow is taken by someone who is fully giving themselves over to the Lord. And what I found was very interesting is it can be done by both men and women.
Yeah,
and the
I
reason
thought that was cool.
I find that interesting is because it seems like most of these, I won't say vows, but positions of religious authority or all things were all taken by men at that point. So I thought it was really cool that both men and women could take that.
Yeah, definitely. I think what stood out to me was it's always funny to see the things that they had to do back then, and you couldn't cut your hair. Yeah. And so I was just thinking, because as you were saying, this was a symbol of them fully giving themselves over to God, which in high school that's when you fully committed your life to God.
Yes.
And I was wondering if maybe you were following
where you're going with this.
The Nazirite vow yourself with the little Justin Bieber hair that you had going on then.
At one point in my life, I did have the Justin Bieber hair, but I want to make this clear. I had it before Justin Bieber had it, and so I'm pretty sure that he saw what I was doing and was like, that's the style.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do.
Maybe he'll be your next guest, and you can talk about that.
We will. Yeah. You know what? If that happens, okay. Another thing that really stuck out to me was this vow was not forever.
Yeah.
There was a beginning point to this, and there was an end point to this.
Yeah.
But what's kind of crazy is you said they weren't allowed to cut their hair, but if they messed up in any way of this, they had to shave all their hair off, and they were put into isolation for a week.
Think about if they had really good luscious locks like that. It's
gone.
Herbal essence type of hair.
Herbal essence. Okay.
And they're gone.
Gone. Straight up gone. Samson style. Just boom. Gone.
Ooh, that was sad.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything else that stuck out in Numbers for you?
I think one thing we just have to remember when we look at this kind of stuff is that a lot of times people wonder, why do we follow certain things from the Bible or Old Testament? There's a lot of things that don't apply to us today. And that you said the Nazirite vow, it had an end date. Mm-hmm. So that's why we're making all these hair appointments, still cutting our hair.
Yes, that is exact. It started then.
It started then. But there are other things in the Bible that had an end date.
Yeah.
And it just applied during that time.
No, that's a great point. All right, we're going to go into Mark, and we are starting in Mark 12 today. And one thing that stuck out to me here was Jesus is talking about the Pharisees here, and he made a point of saying that the Pharisees paraded around and made sure, or when he was talking to them, one thing that I picked out was the Pharisees paraded around and made sure everyone knew how holy they were. That's not the type of leadership that Jesus was wanting us to give in that time period.
Yeah. I think, and just to who they were, I mean, we've seen so much of them walking around. We read it all in Matthew and who they thought they were and trying to represent God. But constantly Jesus was saying, that's not what we're looking for. That's not how you represent God.
Mm-hmm. I think there's even one point where he talks about how he wants us to pray in a closed environment with ourselves to God instead of basically making a point. You don't want to make a show of your faith. That's not the point.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a real relationship, a real connection instead of this. One verse that I really liked in Mark 12 was this. Jesus says, I tell you the truth. This poor widow has given more than all the others who are making contributions, for they give a tiny part of their surplus. But she, poor as she is, has given everything she has to live on. some people may look at this right away and think, oh, this is like a tithing thing where we're supposed to give our money. But I look at this as more of, this is just another example of Jesus basically telling us what our mission is, what his mission of being here to kind of change how we look at things is. We have so much, and God calls us just to give that to him. Like, whether, no matter what problems you have, no matter what, how much you have, he really just, he wants our heart in that aspect. So.
Oh, definitely. And not only just our heart, but our actions, the way that we are living, that we should give every single step that we take to God. This widow that gave 2 coins, that was going to provide either a meal for her family, or maybe it was something that she was passionate about that she could have been buying, a hobby that she had, but instead she said, my whole life is to God. And so it challenges us to give even those smaller things to God wholeheartedly.
Yes. No, that's great. All right, I'm going to jump to Mark 13. And this one's kind of,
this is a doozy kind of.
Just like takes a whole turn. You go from Mark 12 and you're like, okay, I'm feeling this. And then Mark 13 rolls around and he's like, I'm going to tell you now, the end of days, it's not going to look pretty.
And I wonder too, if they were kind of like, did they take that all in, or did they kind of just like toss it aside? Like, okay, yeah, we'll see.
I mean, I imagine they probably toss it aside, because we still, like, now we read this Mark 13 or you go into Revelations and you're like, oh, that's crazy, but like, it's really hard to imagine what that's actually going to be like. Like, for example, Jesus says to be careful for false messiahs, don't be led on the wrong path. He talks about there's going to be earthquakes and crazy things that are going to happen, but he finishes out by saying that we need to stay strong in our faith through persecution, through all of these crazy things that are going to happen. And he specifically says the ones who endure, who stay strong in our faith, will be saved.
Yeah.
Through that.
Following that, it continues in Mark 13, verse 11. That's what stood out to me. It says, but when you are arrested and stand trial, don't worry in advance about what to say. Just say what God tells you at that time, for it is not you who will be speaking, but the Holy Spirit. And so huge. Enduring through that. And one thing that I always try to do when I give and I speak my messages at Encounter is pray right beforehand and say, God, speak through me and to me. Yeah. That it's not my words that are coming out, because my words aren't going to change lives.
Right.
God's words are going to change lives. The Holy Spirit will change lives. And I think that if we do put that into practice, not just through messages, but when we're speaking to other people in a general conversation.
Yeah, day-to-day life,
that when that time approaches, it will still probably be hard, but we'll know that it's so important.
Yeah. Was it hard for you, because you speak every Sunday to the students, was it hard for you to kind of pick up that almost, it's like a habit you got to build to start asking God for those things?
Yes, definitely. And I think it hit me one time, I don't remember the specific message, but I got off the stage and I was like, okay, God, I needed that message more than probably any of the students in this room. I see what you're doing. Yeah. And from then on out, I decided he's going to speak to me, and through that I might be changed and other people might be changed, but I want him to also speak through me. And so he had to do a little work on me first for me to realize that I needed to do those things.
It's always funny how God works in that way, is you may think something is headed in one direction, but it actually is flipped back around.
Yes.
And when it dawns on you, it's like one of those aha moments.
Yeah. His humor is always the greatest.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, we're going to go into Psalms really quick. Haley, was there anything that stuck out to you in Psalms?
Yeah. And when it's just talking about those who are rich, and you know what, he's saying the things that they have now, they're not going to matter later. We're going to die just like everybody else. They're not going to take their riches to heaven. And I think it just follows the commandment of do not covet what other people have. Yeah. Not because you don't necessarily have that and you want that, but because they're not going to get to keep it anyways. So why be jealous of it?
All our treasures are stored in heaven.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you had anything that stuck out to you in any of these passages, please be commenting it. We really love to see how everyone's reading it, everything that sticks out to everyone else, because every time we read through this, something sticks out different. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.